What are we talking about?
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
It's a feel-good Friday, heading into what I would call basically a playoff football weekend. I'm excited.
There is a lot. We talked about it yesterday. There are a lot of essential play-in, playoff football games happening in the NFL this weekend. Right. Whether you're talking about getting into the playoffs, whether you're talking about 4 divisions that are still on the line, whether you're talking about teams that have 9 or 10 wins that are going to miss the playoffs. It is a lot. It is going down starting tomorrow. We have Saturday football, and then it is going to wrap up Sunday night when the Miami Dolphins host the Buffalo Bills with the AFC East on the line. Mo, we actually did not pick this game yesterday, so we're going to open the show with that. Let's pick the game first, and then we'll talk a little more Dolphins and Bills after that. Mo, I think you probably know where I'm going, so we'll start with you for this.
It's a big game for both teams. We all know Buffalo controls their own fate. I really think, and I know people sometimes say that momentum is overblown, I think Miami would like to get this win to get some momentum going into the postseason. And more importantly, like their coach said, and I agree with him, you are playing for a division title, and that does matter. That does carry weight. So I understand what happened versus the Ravens. I understand as well as anybody because it happened to my team. So I'm gonna buck trend, even though Buffalo's playing well. I think Miami bounces back and wins a close game.
So obviously when you come off of the whooping that the Baltimore Ravens put on the Dolphins, you're going to have the narrative, the conversation piece of, well, what are the Dolphins? And the first thing, and I've answered this question a lot this week, Mo, and my first question is, it's fair. It's a fair question to ask, what are the Dolphins? But I'm going to answer your question with a question of my own. What are the Ravens? And I answer that own question by saying this. The Ravens are the team that beat Miami 56-19. They're the same team that rolled the 49ers. They're the same team that rolled the Jacksonville Jaguars the week before. They're the same team that before that beat the Los Angeles Rams, who are, I would say, one of the best teams in the NFC right now. They're the same team that earlier in the season, it was supposed to be a great playoff matchup with the Detroit Lions, and they rolled them by 5 touchdowns as well. Now, the Ravens are not a perfect team, Mo. They have flaws, right? They lost to a Cleveland Browns team earlier in the year that was led by Deshaun Watson. But when you look at the Ravens and their record against other playoff teams this season, not only do they win those games, they've won big in those games.
Right.
So as a Dolphin fan, do I have confidence if the Dolphins play the Ravens in the playoffs? Absolutely not. And I have no reason to have confidence because I've seen the Ravens play 5 playoff teams this year. And not only did they win every single one of them, they won 4 of them by 3 or more scores. Right. So when it comes to the Ravens, as a Dolphin fan, my hope is I don't see them in the playoffs. I hope that they get knocked off and upset in round 2.
But that's honest. That's honest.
That's just how I feel about that.
And guess what? In sports, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a matchup thing, right? If someone knocks the Ravens off, doesn't that increase Miami's chance? That increase Miami's chances. Like, I have no problem with that way of thinking. I'm looking at this year's Ravens, and they look like last year's Eagles.
And just as a Niners fan, I'm sure you're looking in the AFC and you're saying 6 out of 7 teams I have no issue with. I'd prefer not to see Baltimore again. I will take any of those other 6 in the Super Bowl, and you probably feel like you would win any of those
Sure.
other 6.
And look, you have confidence in your team. But I tell you, if they play the Ravens again, I'm like, we're going to be better. It'll be more. I think we'll be right there. It'll be a different game. It may well be a different game, but I feel a lot better, honestly. If we're being 100%, give me another team in the AFC versus the Niners. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. I think we match up much better with everybody else. And I'm not, like I said, every game plays out differently, but that's an honest statement. I did not mind seeing the Ravens get knocked off. I'm just being real.
So that's the first thing that I have to talk about when it comes to the Dolphins and the Bills game. So I disregard what happened with the Ravens. And I'll be fair. If I'm going to disregard what happened with the Ravens, I'll even disregard what Buffalo's done the past 2 weeks against New England and the Chargers. I won't talk about that either, because fair is fair, right? So if I'm not going to talk about Miami last week, I'm not going to talk about Buffalo last week. Let's talk about this. The last 3 times the Dolphins have faced the Bills, it's been in Buffalo. Think about that. They've played 3 straight games in Buffalo. Well, how does that happen? Well, they closed last season in Buffalo. They then went to the playoffs last season in Buffalo. And earlier this year, we played Buffalo in Buffalo. That does not happen a lot in the NFL, Mo, for you to play the same team 3 times straight on the road. It's interesting.
It's a rare occurrence.
Miami's a different team at home. They're a different team this season at home, okay? Now here's where I'm going to go off on a little tangent. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. I'm going to give you some numbers in a second. I don't know why Buffalo has returned to be the darlings of the NFL media. Because a month and a half ago, 5 weeks ago, people were talking about Buffalo in a way that I felt was fair. It was logical. It was based in fact. And as Buffalo has kind of put themselves back into a playoff picture, it seems as though fans have stopped watching Buffalo Bills football games. And this is not just about the Buffalo Bills as a team. This is about Josh Allen as a quarterback. So, you know, the Pro Bowl stuff comes out this week, and there's outrage, Mo. There is outrage as to why Josh Allen is not a Pro Bowl quarterback. Mind you, the same Josh Allen who last year was not a Pro Bowl quarterback. Why is it 2 years in a row Josh Allen isn't a Pro Bowl quarterback, Mo? Could it just be that Josh Allen hasn't played great football the last 2 years? Because it looks like that could be the case. But no. Not if you are a member of the I Am a Buffalo Bills, they're the darlings of the NFL fan club. Mo, if you look at it without bias, Josh Allen is 12th in the league in completion percentage. He's 10th in passing yards per game. He's 10th in yards per game. He is 7th in passing touchdowns. He has the second most interceptions in the NFL this season with 16. I'm not even talking about the fumbles that he's lost this year. His touchdown to interception ratio is 20th, and his passer rating is 16th. Does that scream to you top 3 quarterbacks in the AFC? Doesn't scream that to me, Mo. And then you look at the Buffalo Bills as a team. Let's be fair. Wins are wins. I'll never take away wins from Buffalo. But Buffalo as a road team, is a 3-point favorite in Miami this weekend. The same Miami Dolphins who are leading their division, the same Miami Dolphins who have led their division for the majority of the season, the same Miami Dolphins who are going to come into this game with the number 2 offense in the NFL and the number 6 defense in the NFL. Those Miami Dolphins at home, where they have only lost once this year, in an inexcusable collapse to the Tennessee Titans in the final 3 minutes of the game. That is their home blemish. A team that is confidently better at home. Tua Tagovailoa is 20-5 as a starting quarterback at home in his NFL career. They are a 3-point underdog, Mo, to the Buffalo Bills. The same Buffalo Bills who 6 points past New England Patriots, who needed a last-minute field goal 2 weeks ago to beat the Chargers. Yes, they steamrolled the Dallas Cowboys. I will give them credit for that. And yes, they got by the Kansas City Chiefs. They blew out the Jets. Who hasn't, right? They lost to the Denver Broncos. They lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost to the New England Patriots this season. They lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars this season. They lost to the New York Jets this season. That's the team that's going to take the NFL by storm come playoff time this season, Mo. I will be the first one to tell you, I do not like the Buffalo Bills. I will be the first one to tell you that the word bum comes out of my mouth several times in relation to Josh Allen when I'm watching Buffalo Bills games, okay? I am that guy. And I swear to you, my wife has a bingo card and she checks things off, generic things that I say watching football every Sunday. And one of them is Josh Allen is a bum. And I say it a lot when I watch Josh Allen football games. But Mo, don't sit here and talk to me like the Buffalo Bills are the Baltimore Ravens when they just don't have that resume. It doesn't mean Buffalo is not going to beat Miami. I'll be the first one to tell you Miami has had their struggles against Buffalo in recent years, specifically when they play in Buffalo. If the Bills go into Miami and beat Miami, I'm not going to be shocked. Buffalo, when everything is going their way, they have the potential to have a top 10 offense in the league. They have the potential to have a top 10 defense in the league. But if you look at the breadth of what they have done this season, I do not know how fans and media and other players are looking at a Buffalo Bills team who, after losing to the Philadelphia Eagles, plays a close game against a Kansas City Chiefs team that has no offense this season, impressively blows out the Dallas Cowboys, and then looks pedestrian at best in consecutive weeks in must-win games against the Chargers and Patriots. Pedestrian at best. And you are going to sit here and anoint them as favorites to make it to the Super Bowl in the AFC? Mo, I just don't see it. If this was a Ravens conversation, I got you. 100%. I've seen it. I've seen it happen to my team. I've seen it happen to other good teams. Correct. If it was the Ravens, I am on board. I don't like it, but I'm on board. But as I look at the Buffalo Bills, Mo, I don't understand where the love comes from, because unless we're talking potential, and fine, the potential is there. But what has Buffalo done this season, Mo, for you to sit there and be like, whoo-hoo, if they get in, they are a Super Bowl contender. The same team that was supposed to be a Super Bowl contender the last 2 or 3 seasons and didn't get there with a better team. That was playing better than they were this season, or they are this season. I don't know. I don't know what people are looking at, Mo.
You used the word potential, and I think that's a good starting point. Yes, if they're clicking on both sides of the football, they're one of the elite teams, right? But I lead with if they're clicking, right? If Josh Allen is playing Superman football and it's going the right way when he's playing Superman football, and they are running the football like they did versus Dallas, and they become a more balanced offense, that's a different football team. Have they done that consistently throughout the season? They have not. But I will say this, down the stretch, even though they've looked pedestrian, I'll be fair. The same way I've given the Eagles credit for when they've won ugly, they won. I thought those games versus the Bengals, the game versus the Chargers, not impressive, but they still won the football game. Let me ask you this, partner. As you're no question, you're a Dolphins fan. If they go into Miami and they win the football game, you wouldn't be surprised. But would it in any way weaken your confidence in the Dolphins going forward, heading into the playoffs?
Yes and no. So with So as an NFL fan, what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to make the playoffs, right? The Dolphins are already locked into the playoffs. So as a Dolphin fan, yes, I want them to beat Buffalo. I want them to win the division. I want them to get a home game. Miami is a better team at home for whatever reason. It just works better in Miami. Playing at home against whoever it is they play against and it could be Buffalo. There is a chance they could play Buffalo again the following week, which,
Well,
by the way,
crazy.
don't necessarily want. But it's better than going on the road. And even if I believe if they lose the game, they go on the road to Kansas City. And I could make a very good argument that I would rather play Kansas City than Buffalo, because at times Buffalo has looked great this season. There haven't been many times Kansas City has looked great this season. So I would almost argue that maybe Kansas City is a better matchup for Miami. But at the end of the day, Mo, you want your team in the playoffs, and that's already happened for Miami. So I think as a football fan, Dolphin fans are happy because they're going to be there. And as you know, once the playoffs begin, everything else goes away, because the previous 18 weeks, you can say what you want, but if the Dolphins lose to the Bills and then go on the road and beat the Chiefs, nothing matters now. You
Correct.
are now into round 2 of the playoffs, and the only thing that we're talking about is what happened in the win over the Chiefs. So I see that side of it, but from a team morale, a team confidence point of view,
There it
you
is.
don't want to
Confidence.
lose 2 games going into the playoffs. You don't want to look at the last 2 weeks of the season and be like, hey, 2 weeks ago we had the number 1 seed in our grasp, and now we're the 6th seed. We lost to the best team in the AFC. We lost to our rival in our own division, and now we're going to go on the road and we're going to play Patrick Mahomes. Nothing about that sounds good, right? So for me as a Dolphin fan, yes, I want them to beat Buffalo. I think, and you can talk about momentum, you can talk about confidence, you can talk about, well, they're professional players. They shouldn't need bulletin board material, or they shouldn't need extra juice to get up for games. I get all that, Mo. But at the end of the day, some situations just feel better. And winning your division, knocking off your biggest rival in your division, who you've struggled with recently, and having a home playoff game for the first time in forever feels better than losing your last 2 and going on the road to Arrowhead. So I think that if Miami wants to have success in the playoffs, it starts this week with beating Buffalo, because I don't know how they bounce back if they lose their last 2 and then they're forced to go on the road. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. So for me, I think it does hurt the team a little bit if they lose to Buffalo this week. That was a really long way to answer a really short question that you asked me.
But it's not easy. Like you said, you made a good point. They're already in the playoffs. And that's, you want to be in the playoffs when it's all said and done. And once you get there, home or away, it's still 0-0. And if you go on the road to Arrowhead and Kansas City doesn't play its best football, which it has not done for the most part this season, I don't care if they're at Arrowhead or not, you have as good a chance as any to beat them. You already know the formula. Yes, they have a pretty good defense, but if you score 21 points against Kansas City, they're probably in trouble. They're probably in trouble. That's just a harsh reality. So I'm with you. And by the way, just for the Tyreek factor coming home, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, that's just me. That's just me. I would not mind seeing that game at all. Yeah, I'd love to watch that.
And Mo, if the Dolphins lose to the Bills, I think the narrative in Miami becomes, in the playoffs, if we see Buffalo or Baltimore, it's not a great feeling, right? If you beat Buffalo this week at home, and then you have to play Buffalo in the playoffs, your mindset is, we just beat them. We have the roadmap to beat them. We just beat them at home. Obviously, every game is its own game, right, but we just took care of business. You feel okay about it. You lose to Buffalo, you're not playing Buffalo next round of the playoffs. So you go into that game saying, yeah, we might have issues with Buffalo and Baltimore, but Kansas City is not on that level. So like, it's so compartmentalized, right? So from the confidence standpoint, I get it. And I'm not going to feel great if Miami loses their last two going into the playoffs. But I'm also going to turn around and say, but you know what? We're not playing Buffalo next week, and we're not playing Baltimore. So let's see what they do against a team that they matched up pretty well against in the regular season. And if not for a slow start, they were right in that game at the end. Tua just couldn't get it done. So if that's the same kind of game we're going to see in Kansas City, like you said, Miami has just as good a chance as anyone in that game. So I think that's kind of where I sit as a Dolphin fan going into it. Now, if it's the same result as the Ravens game, I might feel a little different.
Sure.
If it's 56-19, I'm probably not feeling confident going on the road to Kansas City because you just got your face stomped in 2 weeks in a row. So it's a lot. It's a lot on the line. And this kind of leads into my next conversation that I was going to have with you, Mo. And that is, I don't know if you watch Hard Knocks with the Dolphins or if you saw this week's past episode, but obviously they're getting blown out by the Ravens. It's an ugly game for the Dolphins. And there's a point in that game, is either late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, the Ravens handedly have the game in control at that point. And Mike McDaniel walks over to Tua, who is standing on the sidelines. And he stands next to him. He's not looking at him. He stands next to him, and they're both looking out on the field. And he basically starts having an abstract philosophical conversation with Tua. And he's basically saying along the lines of, don't run from this. Let this moment live inside of you. It sucks, but this is what we need. We need to know what this feels like so we can grow from this. And it's just such a small thing, Mo, but for me at the same time, it's such a big thing because it's what Mike McDaniel has done the entire season. And he has found these moments where, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of coaches in the NFL this season. I don't know how many getting their butts kicked 50-19 are walking over and trying to have a philosophical conversation with their quarterback in that moment and telling them to embrace the moment, embrace the beating that they're taking, and to not hide from it and to live in that moment. I don't know how many coaches are telling their players, you know, if you were asked about something that's not related to the game this week, you tell the reporter to F off because this is where I want your focus. We don't care about anything else right now. He tackles narratives head on. He reaches out to his players on a level relationship wise that builds them up from their greatest strengths. And I'm sure other coaches do that. I'm not saying he's the only coach in the league to do that, Mo. And obviously, we have a unique opportunity to see it because of Hard Knocks, and it's not in everyone's locker room. So I'm not saying that these conversations don't happen in other places. But from the moment Mike McDaniel has walked into Miami, this is what players have been saying about him. They've been talking about how he is a different dude. He's a different dude when it comes to him leading them. He's a different dude when it comes to him relating to players. And now, because of things like Hard Knocks, and because he's been given more opportunities to interview and talk to people this season, we're seeing that side of him. And I'm not talking X's and O's. I'm not talking what his offense looks like. I'm just talking about being a leader of men and getting men to buy into what you are saying. Because, Mo, at the core of it, if you can't do that as a head coach, the other crap don't matter. It don't matter what you're drawing up on offense or defense. If your players don't buy into you as a leader and they don't buy into you as a man and they don't respect you, then all the other stuff isn't going to work. So, and you're seeing that with different coaches across the league this season. I mean, look at Staley in with the Chargers. He was a great defensive mind, and I'm sure he still is a great defensive mind. For whatever reason, it didn't work. For whatever reason, he wasn't resonating with his players. Great players, mind you. So when you're talking about the Dolphins this season, and people say to me, well, Chris, you just got your teeth stomped in by the Ravens. And my response to that is, you're right. I want to see what they do next week now. I want to see how Coach McDaniel coaches them up and if they can bounce back. Because if this was 2 years ago, Mo, I would say, yep, we got our face stomped in. It's going to impact us next game. So we're probably going to lose next game. And then hopefully by the third game after the stomping, we'll be able to come out of it.
The third game.
And we'll be able to get back on track. Because that's what the old Dolphins were. If the old Dolphins got blown out by 40, you were definitely losing next week because there was going to be a lingering. And then you're hoping by game 3, you're back to where you were before you got your face stomped in. And that's no longer the culture in Miami. So I think that Coach McDaniel has a lot more to do with what we're seeing outside of the X's and O's stuff with Miami this season than maybe other fan bases realize. And I think that's something that deserves praise for him as a coach this season.
I grant you that. I'm not a Rams fan, but I'm locked in on them. I've been locked in on them throughout the season, and as they've gotten better, they've gotten my attention more. And I hear what you're saying about McDaniels, and I'm on the outside looking in. I feel the same way about Sean McVay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has a way of relating to his players that through the tough times, he finds a way to build up their resolve, their confidence through the losses. And it's one of the reasons why the Rams are where they are right now today. I know what the record says, but I'm talking about how you're playing right now. This is the scariest team to me in the NFC. I know you've got the top 3, Eagles, Niners, Cowboys, but I'm telling you, the team that nobody wants to see anytime soon, the Rams. You don't want to play them.
And Mo, what do the Rams have to lose?
Nothing. They're playing with house money.
And I know, and it's so funny because I listen to other sports personalities tear apart that analogy. Well, if they're playing with house money, that means nothing. They still want to win. No, you're right. They still want to win games. The whole idea is there's no pressure on them.
None.
When the Niners and the Cowboys get to the playoffs, the expectation is Super Bowl from that fan base. So if they get down 10 points in the divisional round or the NFC Championship, there's pressure there now because the expectation is from around them that they are going to the Super Bowl. The Eagles had Super Bowl expectations. I have no idea what the expectation is in Philly right now. It might just be not to be embarrassed in their first playoff game of the season. But 5 weeks ago, the expectation in Philly was Super Bowl. So when things start to come off the tracks a little bit these last 5 weeks during the regular season, you're seeing things that you might not see if the Eagles were the Rams. The Rams were not even picked to make the playoffs by them. Vegas had the Rams at 4.5 wins. That was the over-under for the Rams this season. That was the expectation. So at this point, of course, every player on the Rams wants to win. Of course, they believe they can be a championship team. But what they don't have to deal with, if the Rams go out and they lose in the first round of the playoffs, Mo, the conversation is going to be, what a great season. What a great season this young team had. We can't wait for the future. We can't wait for next season when you add a few more pieces and you could be in the Super Bowl conversation.
Right.
Even though the Rams players are sitting there right now saying, God damn you, we were in the Super Bowl conversation in our locker room.
Right.
We believed we could get there. If the Niners or the Cowboys go out and lose their first playoff game, they buckled under the pressure. Dak didn't perform. Purdy might not be the guy. They weren't as good as we thought they were. They squandered a Super Bowl opportunity. It's completely different, Mo. And for people to say the players don't feel that, BS. They do feel that. Dak Prescott feels that every goddamn time he takes a snap under center for the Dallas Cowboys because he knows if he throws a pick or if he makes a bad decision and they lose the game, that's all he's going to hear about for a week. And Dak Prescott knows that when the playoffs begin, if he plays poorly and the reason they lose is because of him, that's all he's going to hear about during the offseason is that Dak once again shrunk when the lights were the brightest, and he couldn't get it done in the playoffs with a great defense and a wide receiver who's playing MVP caliber football. And same thing with Brock Purdy. You give him a Super Bowl ready team. If you took Kirk Cousins or you took any insert quarterback name and you put it on the San Francisco 49ers, they would have been the Super Bowl this season. But Brock Purdy threw a pick, in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game. And it was a terrible throw, and that's why they're not there. Is Brock Purdy the guy? And that's what he'll have to listen to the entire offseason. And those things matter, Mo. And you can compartmentalize all you want as an athlete, but when you've been dealing with it the entire season, Dak's been dealing with it all season. Brock's been dealing with it all season.
Jalen Hurts has been dealing with it all season.
Jalen Hurts has been dealing with it all season. And now when the lights are the brightest, someone's going to have to put the money where their mouth is and perform. And whoever doesn't is going to deal with it the entire offseason, and it's going to follow them through the start of next. I don't feel bad for them. I'm not saying it's not fair, but that's just the world we live in. And just like that's the world they live in, the world that Matthew Stafford currently lives in is good for you, Matty. You took this team from 3-6 to a playoff team. What a season you had.
Right.
Maybe next year you'll compete for your division.
Then they'll have pressure. Have pressure.
That's it. It matters. It matters.
It does. And these guys are all competitors. But like you said, when people go like, what do you mean house money? We mean the Rams didn't enter this season with the pressure that the Eagles came into the season with, what the Cowboys currently live with. When you look at the 49ers roster, top to bottom, people, that's a Super Bowl roster. So basically, if they don't make the Super Bowl, failure. If Brock Purdy takes you to an NFC Championship game, by the way, that's an accomplishment. But if they lose in it, failure. But if you're the Rams, if you're playing the Niners and you're up 2 touchdowns with 10 minutes to go, you're feeling great. If you're the Rams and you're playing the Niners and you're down 2 touchdowns and there's 10 minutes to go, you still feel good because you're like right there. There's a difference with pressure. There really is. And some teams handle it well and some teams buckle. But I'm not going to hate on the Rams that they've overachieved. They've done it. They've gone out and beaten people. And right now, when we're looking at all these guys that are MVP candidates, I know he's not one, but I would argue that Matthew Stafford is playing quarterback as well as anybody, including Lamar Jackson, as well as anybody. And the Rams, with house money, it is the scariest team to play in the NFC. And if you're the Niners or the Eagles, you're like, I hope somebody else knocks them off. I don't want to play them.
And if you look across the playoff landscape, there's a couple of other teams that are going to fall into this category. Let's go through it real quick. The Baltimore Ravens have pressure. The Baltimore Ravens have complained and cried for the last 5 weeks that no one gives them any love. No one respects their quarterback. No one's talking about them. Okay, well, when you do that for week after week after week, you've changed your own narrative. You're now the number 1 seed. And if you go into the playoffs and you lose in your first playoff game this season, you're going to hear about it the entire offseason because you have come out and said that you deserve respect. No one's giving you respect, this, that, and the other thing. You can't come out and lose your first playoff game. I don't care who they play. I don't care what the game shakes out to be. Baltimore has put themselves in a position, which I'm sure they want to be in that spot. But let's be honest, they put themselves in a position where if they lose their first playoff game, it's a failure of a season because they talked for weeks and weeks about disrespect and all that other stuff. Miami doesn't have that same pressure. Now, Miami has the pressure of they were frauds this season. Miami has the pressure of they played an easy schedule, so they were never really as good as their record said. That's the pressure Miami has. That's a different pressure than what Baltimore is facing. Kansas City Chiefs, they don't have that pressure on them. They've been told all season that their team's not all that great. Right. They've been told all season that it's Patrick Mahomes and aging Travis Kelce and nothing else. So they may have pressure on themselves for their own standard of play in Kansas City. but they don't have the same pressure that the Niners or the Cowboys or the Eagles have on them. No. And then you look at the rest of the AFC. I mean, Jacksonville's already a dumpster fire. If they make it to the playoffs, they stumbled in there. So there's no pressure on them. If the Colts get there, same thing. If the Texans get there, same thing. If the Steelers get there, same thing. The Browns are definitely playing on the house money. They're on their fourth quarterback. So if you look at the AFC playoff picture, outside of Baltimore, that's probably your biggest pressure team in the AFC. Because of how things played out, there is no Burrow in there this season. There is no dominant Josh Allen Buffalo team. Even though they're the darlings of the NFL media right now, they have been mediocre for a good portion of this season. They're not going to go into the playoffs with all this pressure because they were written off 5 weeks ago. So the AFC really is a lot of, we're here, let's see what happens. Unless you're the Ravens.
Right. But here's the thing, though. If you're Baltimore, you're going to have the best record in football. That's great, but the goal is to get to the Super Bowl. If you have the best record in football, and you pointed out earlier in the show, they've battered playoff teams from the NFC, playoff teams from the AFC. They've just walked right through all of them. Perp walked them, no argument. But if you get to the playoffs when it matters most and you come up short, the regular season record means it will have meant nothing. And going into next season, what will everybody say? Like, if Baltimore starts the season off 12-0, well, we saw this before, right? We've seen you build up a great record. It does matter. And I'm taking nothing away from what the Ravens have done throughout the regular season. They've proven to be the best team in football. But can you be the best team in football when it matters most? It's a different kind of pressure. What happens to Baltimore if they're playing a Cleveland Browns team and for whatever reason, they're in the fourth quarter and it's a 13-10 game and it's right there to be had by Cleveland? I don't think Cleveland's going to feel pressure. I think it'll be all on the Ravens. It'll be all on Lamar Jackson. And that's the key. Can they handle being the favorites and deal with that type of pressure?
And Mo, if Lamar wins his second MVP and we don't see a Super Bowl appearance, now you're looking at a two-time NFL MVP that can't get his team to a Super Bowl. That is going to be the new narrative in Baltimore. Terrific regular season team. Lamar puts up crazy numbers in the regular season. Two-time MVP. You know, look how great he is when he's healthy. And then they get to the playoffs and they can't get there. And that's what they're going to have to ride with. And I'm not saying that it's not fair. It's a fair comparison. How many other two-time NFL MVP quarterbacks have never been to a Super Bowl? Right?
That's a great question. I don't even know. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer either because I did not prepare myself for that question.
Right. But I'm wondering if that person even exists.
Off the top of my head. I mean, Brady's been to his. Peyton's been to his. Rodgers has been to his. Cam's been to one. What are there any other recent NFL quarterbacks that got MVP?
Even Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, Matt Ryan got the MVP a couple years ago. Yeah, he's been to one Super Bowl, one. So,
but he's been to one.
He's been to one. So if Lamar wins the MVP this season and doesn't get to the Super Bowl, he is a two-time quarterback MVP that's never been to a Super Bowl. That's interesting because now you really open the door for the conversation of great regular season quarterback, and that's it. And that's not a conversation you want to have.
You don't, because you don't want to get stuck with that stigma. And look, we don't know how the playoffs are going to play out. Like I'm going into the playoffs with the mindset until proven otherwise. The Ravens are the best team in the AFC.
And they've proven that in the regular season by, like you said, perp walking, great team.
Yes. And but you're right. If Lamar wins that second MVP, which we all think he will, and they come up short, the question is, what will it take for him to win a third MVP? Because I feel like he might have to throw for 40 touchdowns and rush for 1,000 yards because they're going to be like, we're not giving this guy the MVP again.
We're not doing this again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that happens in sports. That happens in sports. I'm just saying, Ravens fans, you have every right to be excited going in. Everything's going to go through you at home. But pressure's a thing, man. Pressure busts pipes, and not everybody's cut from that.
And then looking at the NFC, like we talked about, the pressure is on the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. A little bit of pressure on Detroit. I think the pressure for Detroit this season is to win a playoff game, right? So Detroit, they're doing their steps. They played well last season, and then they need to take the next step this season. They won the division. So as a division winner, you want to win a playoff game. If they win a playoff game and then lose in the next round, that's a successful season for the Lions. Even if they lose a playoff game, I think the fact that they won their division, they can still walk away saying, we took the next step. Now next year, we have to win a playoff game.
Yeah,
so I think win or lose in the playoffs, the Lions are going to walk away calling this a successful season. And then after that, Mo, there is zero pressure in the NFC. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Green Bay Packers, Seattle Seahawks, New Orleans Saints. No pressure from any of those teams.
No. You know what? All those teams you just named, you could say they're, with the exception of maybe the Saints, you could say everybody else is basically overachieved, right?
Correct.
To a degree. I think the Saints have, if they make it in, that's great, but they've underachieved. We came into this season, what did we say? It's their division to lose. Like, we were like, the Saints are going to run away with that division.
Great. They have done great giving that division away.
They have found a way, and we didn't think it was going to happen. But to their credit, still there, right? Still got a shot to be in there. Could overachieve. We don't know. What I would say is, like you said, they shouldn't feel any pressure at all.
Mo, I cannot even begin to express how excited I am for House Money Baker. House Money Baker is like the next level of Baker that we all want and we all deserve, and we're going to get to see it. Baker Mayfield is a free agent at the end of the season. Literally, he's balling right now. They're going to beat the Panthers. There is no way Baker Mayfield collapses and allows this team to lose to the freaking Carolina Panthers. So we're going to see House Money Baker balling out in the first round of the playoffs. And Mo, I am completely here for it because he will go down swinging, and it doesn't matter who he plays against because that moment is not going to be too big for House Money Baker.
No, I think he's built for this. He is what I would call somebody that he's a competitor. He's a survivor. He's had ups and downs in the league, but I don't think anyone ever doubted that he could play. Maybe you could debate about consistency, but I think he's found a home. That's my opinion. I don't know what the Bucs front office think, but you've got a quarterback. He's got chemistry with your two best wide receivers and your tight ends, and you've had success. I say build around this guy and bolster up your roster, and you'll be that much better going into next season. But I'm with you. I'm 100% on board to see House Money Baker in the postseason because I think that he can have a 3-interception game and they can still be in the game because he will be there. What I can tell you about Baker Mayfield, whether he plays well or not, he will not lack for confidence. Never.
Oh, and by the way, he's 28 years old. This is not the end of his career. He's not a 34-year-old on the back end of it. He literally is. Look at the other great NFL quarterbacks. When do they come into their prime? 27, 28, 29. He is right there. He could have the prime of his NFL career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's crazy to think about because when you hear the name Baker Mayfield, you're like, oh my God, if he's on his fourth team, he's probably in his mid-third. No, he's not. He is right there on what could be a solid 3, 4, 5, 6-year run with Tampa Bay.
We play in the era right now where quarterbacks, barring injury, they're playing at high levels into their late 30s, early 40s. I'm just saying it's a different time, and I think people forget that Baker's still a very young man. I know it seemed like he's been around for a minute, but you're right, Chris. He's still in his 20s. That's crazy to think. I'm just a fan, and I'm just glad that he's had the season that he's had. And I hope the Bucs front office is smart enough to realize you don't have to look around. You got your guy.
Mo, the Baltimore Ravens pick up Dalvin Cook. We knew that he was going to latch on to a playoff team. We just didn't know which one. My money was on the Cowboys, but the Ravens end up getting Cook. Good fit. I think it's a good fit for both. I think that the Ravens needed a little extra in their running back. They're always injured at running back for whatever reason. I don't know if he's going to have the same impact in Baltimore that he could have had in Dallas, just because of the style of offense that the Baltimore Ravens run. Obviously, Lamar is a big part of their running game in Baltimore, whereas Dak isn't in Dallas. So I think backs are going to be featured more in the Dallas Cowboy offense than you're going to see in Baltimore. But that being said, Mo, if he makes the most of his opportunities when he gets them, and he is running well, and he's finding holes, and he's getting chunks, they're going to feed him the ball. So the ball is in his court. If he can take advantage of the carries he's going to get, I think he could see his role expand going through the playoffs. But I don't think the overall opportunity in Baltimore is going to be as great as it would have been in Dallas. But maybe for him, that doesn't matter. Maybe, for him, it was, and was he on waivers? Did Baltimore pick him up? Is that how that worked? I don't think he signed with Baltimore.
I don't think so either. I think you're right. I think they picked him up.
I think so he didn't really have a choice. But obviously Baltimore, like we just talked about, is the favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. So great spot for him to be in. So I think all in all, it worked out well for everybody in this situation. The Jets, the Ravens, and Dalvin Cook.
And it's a great audition. You get to audition for the other 30 teams in the NFL, not to mention you have an opportunity to be an impactful, let's say, role player on a Super Bowl team. Like you could be a Super Bowl champion and going forward, however your career turns. Once you're a champion, it'll always be there, part of your resume, like he is a Super Bowl champion. And you're right. In that offense, because they do a lot of RPO, Lamar sticks it in your belly, then he takes it out. By the way, and I'm not blaming Lamar, but a part of the RPO is when you stick it in a back's belly and you take it out, that back still gets drilled. I'm just saying that might be one of the reasons they lose a lot of running backs. The RPO comes back to bite you. But right, so in that offense, you're not going to get like the straight 25, 30 carries you would on another team, especially with Dallas, the way they play. They go power I. So I'm with you. Could he be productive around the goal line? He's really good. Like I said, he's a good pass catcher. So I think there's ways they can use him, but I don't think he's going to shine the way he could have on another team.
Mo, when your NFL career is over and whatever you do in your life after the NFL, it's so much sweeter when your introduction is Super Bowl champion and then your name. Because that's what it is for all these guys. If you get the ring, no matter what you do after you leave the NFL, you will be introduced as Super Bowl champion, whatever your name is. And it doesn't matter. And no one's going to sit there and be like, well, where did he get his ring? What team was? Nope. They're like, oh, this is greatness. I have greatness in front of me. This man won a Super Bowl. That's all that matters. So you're right. Cook wants one of those. He wants to be Super Bowl champion running back Dalvin Cook when his career is over.
Because he might want to get up in the booth. Look, how many times have you seen on ESPN, I'm here with 3-time Super Bowl champion Teddy Bruschi.
Yep.
They lead with that.
That's right.
And that's fine. He's earned that. But yes, of course you want that because it does give you a credibility, right? Like I didn't just play football. I won in football. Like I excelled in football. Like I'm a champion. So you want to listen to me because I can tell you some stuff. 100%.
Mo, the NBA world is exploding after the Nuggets and Warriors game last night.
I watched that game.
I am sitting here and I don't have the same explosion because I'm sitting here saying, what did you think was going to happen when the Warriors jumped out to that lead late in the game? You knew what was going to happen. You knew they were going to blow the game, and you knew that they were going to find some way to lose to the Denver Nuggets because, Mo, even when the Warriors were at their best, they did this 4 or 5 times a season. They would jump out to huge leads, and then they would lose the leads, and some nights they wouldn't get them back, and they would lose games they weren't supposed to lose. And that's when they were a championship team.
Correct.
When you have Steph Curry on your team, you're going to have 2 or 3 minute stretches where you put up 12 or 15 points, and you're going to jump out to those leads. If you're a good team, you can then play defense and sound offensive basketball, and you can maintain. You can have a 4-point swing this way, a 4-point swing that way, and you're maintaining your double-digit lead. It goes from 12 to 16. It drops down to 8. Then it goes back to 11. That's what good teams do. And for the most part, when they were a championship-winning team, that's what the Warriors did. They would run out to a 19-point lead. It would get back down to 7. They would push it back to 13. And you're like, those Warriors, they're fun, aren't they? Well, now they're a bad team. But they're a bad team that still has the ability, because of Steph Curry, to go on these runs 2 or 3 minutes where they put up 12 or 15 points, because Steph just gets hot and he starts draining things. And maybe one night out of every 2 weeks, Clay gets hot. And Clay starts draining things.
By the way, that's what happened.
And that is what happened last night.
Clay was hot too.
Yep, Clay got hot last night as well. And they jumped out to – but, Mo, then you look at it and you say, the Nuggets are still a superior team. So they still have to go down and defend the Nuggets, which they couldn't do. And then they still have to maintain offense on the other side of the ball, which they can't do against great teams like the Nuggets. So was it spectacular to see the shot at the end of the game? Absolutely. Should you be surprised at all that they blew the lead to the Denver Nuggets? No. This is actually the 3rd or 4th time this season they've blown double-digit leads, because that's who they are now. They are a team that once they blow the lead, they don't have the ability to get it back like they used to. So I know the NBA world is going crazy. Look what the Nuggets did. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, well, same old Warriors, Mo.
18-point lead with 6 minutes to go. And they blew that. And everything that's wrong about them was highlighted. They don't defend well. Nope. Now, to your point, when they were winning titles, they were always like amongst the highest turnover teams in the league. They just were. And if you watch that game, late in the game, Steph has the ball, and Steph makes a horrible turnover. He tries to throw the ball across the court, and Jamal Murray intercepts it. Nuggets call timeout, and that's when they set up the play, and Joker gets the running shot to hit the banker. But 18-point, and here's the crazy part. The last 4 minutes, Golden State doesn't score. They don't score. And I've seen them do that too during the Steph Curry era. Even at their height of heights, they can go through these lows, but they literally don't score for minutes at a time. I'm watching them, and I think that Steve Kerr's looking and what do we say? The beginning of the end. Like, at some point, you knew when Bird's Celtics were done. You knew when Magic's Lakers were done. Isaiah's Pistons. You knew when Jordan's Bulls, like, they won that last one, but you thought these guys were all in their mid-30s. That's why, like Krause and Reinsdorf was like, we're not going to chance it. You know what I mean? Better to let it go now than to go for. I'm looking at the Warriors, and if they're going to keep this current roster construction, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not even going to make the playoffs. And it's a shame, because Steph is still playing at a high level. He is. But he's not playing at the level to where he can carry all these guys. He can't. And you're right. Clay had a great night last night, but for every big game Clay has, there's 5 or 6 games where he barely does anything. And that's the struggle. Andrew Wiggins, I don't know what's going on. I think it's a mental thing. He's only 28 years old, but he looks like he's 48 years old. Like something's going on, can't figure it out. But I think that Golden State, they might need to make some tough choices come the trade deadline to do something that they weren't ready to do, Chris, coming to the season. And I'm talking about the beginning of the actual rebuild.
It's almost fool's gold when you have Steph Curry, because you look at that game last night and you go, we were 18 points up on the defending champs. They weren't resting a bunch of players. It was a big game. They were all there, trying their best, and we were 18 points better. But were you really, though? No, because you were 18 points because of what we just said. Steph doing his thing, which he does, most nights, every other night. That's what he does. Clay does it once every 5 games. Everything hit last night. But even when everything hit, you couldn't hold it because you're not a good team. And like you said, Warriors fans this morning are going to say, look, the odds of us doing that again, blowing that lead in 6 minutes, they're pretty good. If you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, those odds are pretty good. Most other teams blowing an 18-point lead in 6 minutes, I would agree with you. Maybe once a season. If you're the Warriors, it could be 5 or 6 times a season, because that's what you've always been. You have always been a fast-paced, high-octane team that turns the ball over, that goes into lulls where you can't score for the life of you, but it evens out because you also go into these streaks where you score 15 points in 3 minutes and you're knocking people out. But the Warriors have lost the knockout punch. They come out strong. They will surprise you for the first 3 rounds, Mo, and they got you on the ropes, but they just can't hit the knockout shot anymore. And that's the difference in this transition to the Warriors. And it's because Clay isn't what he was. Wiggins isn't what he was. Draymond's not even there right now. Like that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at. And there isn't going to be a knockout punch on this team as it's currently comprised. And I don't think there is an answer. I don't think there's a trade they can make to make this better. I think that they just need to make Steph comfortable as they rebuild and prepare for life without Steph. But I think it's going to be very similar to what the Lakers were Kobe's last few seasons. Kobe still tried to do everything he could. And there were nights where Kobe was amazing. There were nights where Kobe struggled. But the one consistent thing was that those teams weren't that great around Kobe those last few seasons. And because Kobe was there, they were always kind of in the conversation, right? Like, well, if they could just get into the play, it turned from winning championships with Kobe to can we make the playoffs? Well, we're only a game out of the 8th seed, or we're 2 games up on the 7th seed. That's what the conversation turned into Kobe's last few seasons. Look at Lakers message boards. Well, we're only 3 games out of the 6th seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You just won a title 2 years ago.
Right. Think about that for a minute.
We're only 3 games out of the 6th seed. We're doing okay.
Right. Yeah. Think about that. And look at them right now. You got this, everything that's going on with the Lakers now. What is the first thing they say is, well, we got to fire Darvin Ham. He got to go. He's a god awful coach. Ham is what's wrong with the Lakers, not the roster construction, not the fact that the Lakers are probably, along with Milwaukee, 2 of the oldest, slowest, least athletic teams in all the NBA. And these younger teams are running the doors off of them. And it's weird because I was thinking, here's the crazy thing. The Lakers, I believe, they might be the only team with 2 top 10 players. 2 top 10 players. Is there another team that has 2 top 10 players? At the top of my head, maybe you could make the case for Milwaukee if you think Dame is top 10 and Giannis obviously is. But other than that, the Lakers the only team with 2 top 10 players and they're under 500.
But all of a sudden, it's the coach's fault.
It's the coach's fault, right? Ham's not listening, and they're like, Ham is not, and LeBron's not happy. And look, LeBron's a great player. He is a Mount Rushmore player. LeBron James flourishes with coaches that he can tell what to do. He always has. The myth is, well, if LeBron had a great coach. No, if LeBron had Larry Brown, that wouldn't work. He wouldn't like Larry Brown. If LeBron had Pat Riley, that wouldn't work. He didn't have Pat Riley as a coach, but he dealt with Pat Riley. He did not like that feeling because he didn't like being criticized or pushed. LeBron likes a certain type of coach. When he had Mike Brown, when he had Ty Lue, what's the guy that was? I think he was a coach in Spain, and he coached for like a year or so. Then he got rid of him. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
the Cavaliers.
David Blatt.
Yes. My point is, they don't bring in big name coaches because that's not going to work. LeBron needs to exude a certain type of power for him to be comfortable. And he wanted Darvin Ham. And you loved Darvin Ham last year at the end of the season when you guys ended up getting into the conference finals. You're struggling into this year, and you think it's Darvin Ham's fault. But I want to remind everybody, in the offseason, what was the narrative, Chris? The Lakers won the offseason.
Because they re-signed their own players.
And all we did was bring back our own guys, but they won the offseason. I'm just saying.
Mo, it's that pressure conversation, right? If the Lakers don't go on the run they did in the playoffs last season, let's say they lose in the first round, what is the expectation going into this season? We need to get better. And maybe you're still having the same conversation about Darvin Ham. Maybe that's still a narrative. But you make it to the Western Conference Finals, which, by the way, you got your doors blown off. You didn't even look like you belong there. But you make it to the Western Conference Finals, and because you got there, the expectation is now, well, we should be able to get there again. And then next year, we can take that next step and get to the finals. But you probably shouldn't have been there last season. You got hot at the right time. Certain role players on your team got hot at the right time. Anthony Davis managed to stay healthy when usually he doesn't. Like, a lot of things just worked out. And I'm not going to call it luck, and I'm not going to take anything away from what they did last season.
No.
But things just worked out well for you, and you did what you did. But when that happens, Mo, sometimes fan bases start getting expectations. And now going into the season, after they won the offseason by bringing back all their guys, and the guys, I don't know if they lost anybody, but the pieces they brought in, they aren't superstars. But they love them. But after winning the offseason, now the expectation is championship. Now the expectation is we got to the Western Conference Finals last year. We won the offseason this year. We're at least going to get back to the Western Conference Finals this year. At least. And if we take the next step with the people we added, we're going to the finals, baby. And now you're under 500.
And now the conversation is, are we going to get Zach LaVine, or are we going to get DeJounte Murray? Like, it's that quick. Suddenly, we need another star in here.
Well, by the way, it wasn't that long ago where Austin Reeves was the other star.
I thought he was. Right.
Austin Reeves was the third star in that big three. Don't you talk bad about Austin Reeves. Do you watch Laker games? He's one of their best players. Well, he's probably on his way out because he wasn't that third star. He played well. He played above his britches, but Los Angeles fans elevated him to something that he wasn't. And now that he's playing probably closer to what he is, we can move Austin Reeves. We don't need him. We need this guy. That's not winning basketball, Mo. It's not.
It's not. And it's trying to take a shortcut. And I know the situations aren't identical, but it's similar. This might just be the beginning of the end. And you can't keep putting Band-Aids on this and trying to extend this. I get it. You want to max out whatever's left of the LeBron era. I think you might have maxed it out when you won the title a couple of years ago. That you might have maxed it out. They're still relevant, but I don't think I'm looking at them and I'm going, I don't see another title coming.
Are we in the point of LeBron's career where it's just waiting to see where Bronny goes? So LeBron can get there with him?
Yeah, I know I am.
I feel like that's where we are. Like, I'm not saying LeBron doesn't want to win. I'm not saying that at all. He wants to win. He wants to continue to, and he's still playing good basketball.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget that. He is a top 10 player in the NBA 20 plus years into the league. So absolutely. I'm not taking anything away from LeBron, but I feel like with the way this team is comprised, with the moves that they made, the horizon for LeBron James is not winning a championship in LA. It is, where is Bronny going to go and how can I get myself there? Because I need to play with him.
And how many years can I play with my son that I'm able to expedite his development, if you will?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look, LeBron strikes me as the kind of dad, like or most dads, where he's like, when I leave, I'd love it if Bronny was put in a situation where Bronny became a superstar in his own right? Where I can step back and go, I'm Bronny's dad. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that's what he wants for his son. But I'm with you. I think that his mission, he wants to win titles. I don't want anybody to think that I think that LeBron's coasting. But mission one, his resume speaks for itself. He's made it plain that he does want to play with his son. And you're right. I'm sure he's thinking like, I don't know where Bronny's going, but I just got to find a way that I can get there. And
once he gets there, Mo, the next question is going to be, wait, can I win a title here? Can I get some friends?
On my son?
Right. Can I get some friends to come here and I win a title with my fourth different team and I win a title as a father-son duo? Because MJ don't got that. That's not on MJ's ledger. Because that's the other thing I think he's still here for, Mo, is he's trying to build the ledger to just add things on, because and I could be completely wrong, but I truly believe LeBron knows that there is still a very good conversation out there that he's number 2 behind MJ. And he is just trying to do things that level it out or put him up there.
Or
because that's all he has left, right? That's all he has left. At worst case scenario, if you talk to any knowledgeable basketball fan, he is number 2 at worst all time. At worst.
That's weird to say, like right? So the worst thing is this guy's 2. Like, what?
Right.
The disrespect. He's number 2. But no, I think you're right, Chris. He is trying to add to his resume because he's like, let me just put this here and put this. And remember, as he keeps playing, his overall, I'm talking about his career statistical numbers, they just keep going up and keep going up. So I do think that he's like, outside of winning another championship, I can keep stacking up these numbers, these stats that will be right beside my resume, because I think that matters to him. People are always talking about this conversation. LeBron has been open that he's here for that conversation. He's talked about it constantly. It absolutely matters to him. If he could go somewhere and win a title with another team with his son, look, in my opinion, I think that changes the conversation, because that would be insane. Not impossible, but that would be insane.
He literally could say, I played for 4 different NBA franchises. I brought titles to 4 different NBA franchises. One of them being the Cleveland Cavaliers. What have they done before me? What have they done after me? The other one being whatever team gets Bronny, which probably won't be a great team. So it's going to be another kind of probably lower tier team, because that's who gets players, right?
Poetic justice, Chris. Bronny goes to the Charlotte Hornets, which Jordan used to own. LeBron goes there and wins a title.
What if he goes to Chicago?
Wow. Goes into Jordan's house. LeBron goes there with him, and they win a title that the Bulls, because the Bulls they have done nothing before or since Jordan. But if LeBron goes into Chicago and wins a title in Jordan's house,
I give it to him. I give it to him at that point. I give it to LeBron.
No, I'm with you. Conversation's over.
If he brings a title to Chicago,
conversation's over.
Mo, that has ESPN Classic written all over it.
Look, I tell you what, if it played out, because I love how sports can play out. If that story played out in that fashion, I'm here for it. I am, because I'm a basketball fan. I would eat that up. The poetic justice of LeBron finishing his career in Chicago with a title.
And his son.
And let me not leave that out. And his son, which, by the way, it's not lost on LeBron that Michael Jordan's sons, they weren't that good at basketball.
No, it is not lost on him at all.
They played, but they weren't that good at basketball.
Mo, how much is Jordan paying the officials in that finals? Because at that point, you're like, it's gonna happen. If he goes there and he gets to the finals, at that point you're like, well, he's winning it. So if you're Jordan, that's all you got left. All you got left is throwing money at officials to make sure LeBron gets called for fouls.
I'm just or fouling him out. Yeah,
right.
I'm just saying, like, look, that isn't insane. I've never seen. Now I could be wrong. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that where somebody took over somebody else's house and won a title there. Like, it's gonna happen. And look, if anybody can do it, it's actually LeBron James.
I mean, the closest thing would be LeBron with the Lakers, right?
He went into Kobe's house.
He went into Kobe's house.
Kobe, Magic's house. Well, yes, sure.
Yeah. But the Lakers, I say it's different because the history of the Lakers isn't tied to just one player.
There
are so many great Lakers. So yes,
the best way to put it.
It was Kobe's house most recently, but before it was Kobe's house, it was Magic and Kareem and all those other great Lakers
and Elgin Baylor and Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain was. I mean, right? You're right.
But whose house was it in Chicago before Michael? Whose house has it been after Michael? It's still Michael's house.
It's still Michael's
house. It
is
right. Forever Michael's house. So if that were to somehow happen and he won a title in Michael's house, I would be all. I might root for LeBron James in that situation. I might.
I think the internet would explode. It would explode. Well, I think it would explode once you knew he was going there, right? Right. If you said they drafted Bronny and then LeBron ends up there, the internet explodes. But if they turn around and they end up in the NBA Finals with a chance to win it all, breaking all kind of records.
Mo, Shaquille O'Neal made the news last week because he is taking offense to NBA teams retiring numbers of players who never played for that organization or did not play meaningful basketball for that organization. There were a couple of teams that said they're going to retire Jordan's number within their organization out of respect to Michael Jordan. There was a team that said they're going to retire Walton's number out of respect to Bill Walton. And Jordan and Walton never played for those organizations. So Shaq's take on it was, what are we doing? Why are you respecting or giving these accolades of retiring a number in your franchise to someone who's done nothing for your franchise, to someone who's probably smacked down your franchise during their greatness? Because while they're winning championships, guess who wasn't winning championships? Your franchise. So not only are you going to immortalize within your franchise someone who's never played for you, in a roundabout way, you're immortalizing somebody who has hurt your franchise over an extended period of time.
Good point.
Do you agree with Shaq that teams should not be doing that?
Nah, I don't know. I think Shaq's just saying that because he wasn't good enough for somebody to do that. The reality is, Pat Riley retiring Michael Jordan's number wasn't about whether he played for the Heat or not. This was Pat Riley saying, I'm retiring that number 23 because of what he did for the NBA. It was a bigger picture thing. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with if a franchise wanted to retire Kobe. I'm fine with that. I am. And one day that same honor should be felt upon LeBron for all he's done. I'm okay with that. There are transcendent, impactful players in sports. Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Magic, those are those guys. Shaq was a great player and he had a big impact, but he didn't save the league. He didn't rescue the league. He didn't elevate the league. He was very successful in the course of the league, but I don't think he's not one of those guys where you say, well, Shaq did this and he made you do that. Not really. I don't see him in that light. I'm not sure why it bothers him. Like I said, Pat Riley was thinking about Michael Jordan's contributions to basketball. Never mind the fact that, yes, Michael Jordan used to destroy the Miami Heat. constantly. If you ever saw what he did to Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning, it was just slow torture over and over and over. That was part of it. But I don't have a problem with it. I'm wondering why it's a big deal to Shaq.
I'm wondering how big of a deal it is to LeBron. LeBron won titles in Miami.
Sure.
Michael didn't win titles in Miami.
Well,
Again,
I mean, but
when
to be
you're
fair, though,
looking
that
at
was done.
things where LeBron's trying to add to his resume,
I'm
sure part of him is like, "Are you effing kidding me? You're gonna retire that man's number for an organization where I brought you to 4 finals and won 2 of them?"
I mean, but to be fair, though, that honor was already done. Like, I don't know why Shaq's bringing up an old conversation.
He is.
Riley retired Jordan's numbers like before LeBron was a Miami Heat. That Shaq's. I don't know. Whoever's whispering in Shaq's ears, they're not giving him good information. Look, but I'm with you. I get it. LeBron's like, well, I want my number returned. And look, I'm certain. It will be. Right. Absolutely.
When you're done playing, LeBron.
And we don't know when that is.
Right. Pat Riley's not retiring numbers for active players, just like the NBA is not putting active players.
We're not putting in the Hall of Fame. Right.
Stop it, LeBron.
You know what? To go back to your earlier point, LeBron's like, if I can get into the Hall of Fame while I'm still playing,
I'm Kobe and Jordan.
Kobe and MJ don't have that. They didn't have that. I'm not hating. I just think that LeBron's ultra competitive, like those guys were. And he's like, I got to find a way to get a leg up on these guys.
All right, Mo, let's close out the show with this. We got some end of the year awards. Now, for our listening audience, I'll tell you, I didn't prep Mo for this. Mo has no idea what I'm going to throw at him.
Nope.
He is just literally going to listen and react. So, Mo, let's start with this. The worst moment of 2023. Most of these only have 3 choices, but this one has 5. Worst moment of 2023. The entire New York Mets 2023 season is your first option.
That's a good candidate.
Ja Morant's off the court issues. Sean Payton versus Russell Wilson. The Aaron Rodgers injury with the New York Jets. And the Miami Hurricanes refusing to take a knee with 32 seconds left to go in the game and essentially costing them their season by losing to Georgia Tech.
It's not funny, but man.
It's funny.
Look, it's a little funny. You know what? Because it's fresh in my head, I probably would go with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton.
It was ugly.
It was ugly. It was one of those marriages that you knew was heading for divorce. You just didn't know how it was going to end, and now we do.
Best NBA player 2023. Now, this is an interesting one because you're going to get the end of the 2022 season. You're going to get the start of this season. So there's a lot to look at for when it comes to this because how the NBA season is structured. Giannis, Joker, Embiid, Luka, Steph, SGA. I'm
going Joker.
Yeah.
It's not a hard choice for me.
That's
I'm
fair.
going Joker, and I think all those guys are terrific. By the way, trust me, I'm there. I'm a big Giannis fan. Love SGA, but I am gonna go with Joker. He has been amazing, and I watch him, Chris, and it looks like sometimes he's in practice mode, but it's in the game. You can't speed him up. You can't rush him. He plays at his own pace. He's just an amazing basketball player.
He's like Lamar when Lamar rushes the ball. When Lamar runs, it doesn't look like he's running. It looks like he's just kind of, half speed out there, kind of like jogging almost. Yeah. But yet no one can catch him.
Right.
Like it's weird. And that's what it looks like when Joker plays bad. It looks like he should be able to be stopped. It looks like he's not doing anything special out there, but yet nobody can stop him.
Right. And you look at him, right? He's a big man, but he's not one of these Adonises, right? He's not ripped. He has the body of like one of those old school guys, like a Greg Ostertag or something like that. And yet he has this amazing skill set where his in a mind that is constantly in motion. Like he thinks the game the way LeBron, the way Magic, the way Bird thinks the game. to go with his skill, and that's amazing.
All right, Mo. Next category, the best sports story of 2023. We have college football realignment. We have the backup quarterback success stories in the NFL this season. And then we have the overall 2023 success of women's sports. And that includes the Women's World Cup attention, the 92,000 plus fans that showed up for a women's college volleyball game, Coco Gauff, Simone Biles, and Asia Wilson all winning championships in their respective sports this season. And then we can't forget the attention that Caitlin Clark and Angela Reese drew to women's college basketball this season with both their individual success and their NCAA tournament success.
I'm going to go with the overall elevation of women's sports. I love that.
It's been a crazy story this year, and it's been nonstop. Yeah. Every sports season, another female athlete, another female team has come to the forefront and really garnered national attention, which, again, I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, Mo. That doesn't happen a lot in the world of women's sports. They just are not covered the same way their male counterparts are usually, but that's been different in 2023. We've seen national coverage of tennis because of Coco. We've seen the comeback story of Simone Biles. We've seen back-to-back WNBA championships by the Las Vegas Aces. And let's be honest, the WNBA isn't really nationally covered, but they got national headlines this year. And that's because of what Asia Wilson and the Aces are doing over there. And Mo, for me, 92,000 fans at a collegiate volleyball game. I don't care if it's men or women's. I don't care who's playing volleyball. To get 92,000 people to come to a volleyball game was mind-blowing to me.
I just think women's sports overall continues to elevate. It continues to grow and get more popular. And you look at some of the great individual talents. I think a year ago we were talking about UNESCO. Now we're looking at Caitlin Clark, and people are going, I don't know, man. Caitlin Clark, there are people who shatter glasses and stigmas. Caitlin Clark looks like the chick that might be like, I think I can play in the NBA. I think you know what I mean? Like, set a pick for me with her range and her quickness and her handle. I know cats are like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's going to be somebody. And I'm just saying, she's as close to anybody to being that somebody.
When Steph Curry is giving you props for doing what he does, and he's the best in the world at what he does, you know you're doing something right.
Right. I just to watch her play, her step back is every bit as good as Steph's. The way she lures you, leads you in, rocks you, and then raises up, and the ball is gone before you can recover. Like that's just an innate talent. That's somebody that you can tell they put hours and hours into the gym.
Well, we're going to segue here for a second because I haven't. It just popped in my head, and I don't have an answer for this. What does a female playing in the NBA look like from the stance of? And you see this sometimes in high school sports, right? So in high school sports, you'll see like a female wrestler, and it puts male wrestlers in a predicament. Because they've done interviews, and I'm not going to pick a side here. I'm not going to say that women can't or they don't deserve fair treatment. But you see the argument from their male counterparts where they're like, I don't want to wrestle a girl. Not because I think she can beat me. Not because I don't think I can beat her. Something about my moral compass tells me that I should not be getting into a physical combat situation with a female. I don't think that's morally acceptable. So I'm going to remove myself from that situation. If I lose, I lose. It is what it is. Right. I'm not comfortable with that. Some people think that's a cop-out and that's you not giving that female athlete credit. Other people say, I wouldn't do it either. I don't want to get in there and wrestle a female. Has nothing to do with whether I'm going to win or lose. I just don't want to put my hands on a woman. That's how I was raised. I'm not going to do that regardless of the situation.
And I understand that.
obviously the NBA is not that. People aren't
Right.
throwing athletes around, but the NBA is physical. What does it look like? Because at some point it's going to happen. You are going to have the first female player play in the NBA. What does it look like if she goes out there and a guy who is probably going to be bigger than her, who is probably going to have 50, 60, 70 pounds on her, puts her on her butt? The optics are terrible. The optics in that situation are absolutely horrible. But at the same time, Mo, the optics of her shooting over you and draining it
Right.
are also terrible. Not because, and again, I'm
I
not
think it's
trying to
awesome.
make it the girl scored on you conversation, because if she's good enough to play in the NBA, it shouldn't be that.
Correct.
But Mo, let's not pretend that if she goes up and shoots over you, when you get back to the bench, you're not going to hear it from your boys. You let her go up and shoot over. You let her drain that. Like, that's what the conversation is going to be. Call it sexist. Call it misogynistic. It is what it is. That's the conversation. But at the same time, if you put her on her butt, that's not a good look either. So I don't know what that looks like. If that were to ever happen, I'm watching it because I'm so intrigued of just how do they play her? Do they get physical with her? Are they aggressive? Do they want to play aggressively? What does that look like? I'm so intrigued.
And I could be wrong, but I think that if and when it does happen, I think the first female NBA player will be a perimeter player. It'll be somebody like an Ionesco, Caitlin Clark, someone who's quick, someone who can handle the ball, shoot with range. And here's the thing. Yeah, a lot of guys are going to have a 60-pound, 80-pound weight advantage over her. But remember now, you're playing in a league where what if she gets matched up against somebody like say, Trae Young? He's not a physical Adonis. She might be as big or bigger than he is.
Yep.
There are plenty of guys in the NBA with that physical stature. So I think that depending on her position, if she can play, she can play. And when she gets put on her butt, I thought about this instantly. At first I cringed, but then I said, if she's the competitor that I'm assuming she is, when you put her on her butt, she's probably going to get up real quick and go, yeah, let's go.
And get in your face.
Right. Now we're playing, because that's what any competitor would do. So yep. I think that's the way I expect. That's exactly how she's going to react. Like, oh, now we're playing. So good. Now you're not afraid to play against me. Good. That's what I want. So I think that there will be guys who will hesitate, Chris, and that might be instinctive. But there'll be other guys that go out there like, if you're out here playing and you're going to the rim,
she ain't scoring on me. You ain't scoring on me. She ain't scoring on me.
Right. I don't care who you are. I'm going to put you in the first row. So, and that's as it should be. Correct. You shouldn't suddenly like, well, they're going to change the rules. No, I think that first player will be talented enough and tough enough that they can weather anything that's put out there. I mean, I understand you and I both will have moments where we cringe when they go to the ground, but when she pops up and she's here for it, I'm going to relax.
Best in Major League Baseball 2023, Shohei Ohtani, Ronald Acuna Jr., or World Series champion Corey Seager?
Ooh. We have talked about Shohei Ohtani so much.
We have.
And you can't dispute his greatness, but I'm going to go with Corey Seager.
Okay. I actually went with Acuna here.
Oh, okay. That's not. I wish JG was here because he'd probably blow us both out the water. You're both wrong, and this is why.
Here's who should have been on the list.
Right.
Best in the NFL 2023, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey.
So my bias says CMC, but Lamar's going to be the MVP. So I'm going to give it his due and go Lamar Jackson.
Comeback Player of the Year, Cody Bellinger for the Dodgers, Joe Flacco for the Browns, DeMar Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills.
If we could break this down in terms of what you actually do on the field, I would go Joe Flacco. But I think I'm going to go DeMar Hamlin because he's alive.
Correct. And I think he's going to win it this season because of that reason. He is alive and able to play football.
Right. And whether he becomes a Pro Bowl player or he just becomes just a good player, he is alive today. His family is celebrating him being alive. You win because he's still alive.
I have such an issue with because here's the narrative, right? Well, DeMar can't win that award because he's literally a bench player for the Buffalo Bills. And half the games this year, he hasn't even been active. I hear you. Okay. Now let's talk about what the award is. It's called Comeback Player of the Year. So what are they coming back from? Mo, he died on the field.
Correct.
His heart stopped beating on the football field. He lived and then came back to play in NFL games this season.
Right.
Nobody is going to ever come back from anything bigger than what we just talked about right here.
Right.
It is literally the perfect definition of comeback player of the year. He died on the football field. He survived, got healthy enough to be where he was before the incident, and he played in NFL games this season. Give him the damn award.
Right. Look, and I love what Joe Flacco has done, but Joe Flacco is coming back from being on his couch hanging out with his kids.
Correct.
That's not a bad life. That's not a bad life at all. I don't think it's close.
Worst team of 2023: the Oakland Athletics, the Carolina Panthers, or the Detroit Pistons?
Oh, it's the Pistons. it's the Pistons. They are.
That's amazing, Mo. In only like 32 games out of an NBA season, they get to be named worst team of 2023.
I can watch sports all the time. Like I don't know if you're like this, but if it's on, I'm probably gonna watch it. They're so bad, I can't watch. I can't get through a whole quarter. They're that bad, and I feel bad for Monty Williams. I think he is a good NBA coach, but this is one of those perfect storms. They put a guy who's a good NBA coach with a bunch of guys that basically what he has is a college basketball team. Yep. And he cannot relate to these young guys. They're not hearing a word he's saying. And their roster construction is god awful. It's just a perfect storm for losing.
And they've done a lot of it.
A lot, right.
Female athlete of the year: Caitlin Clark, Simone Biles, Coco Gauff.
So usually I always go Simone Biles. But I'm going to go with Caitlin Clark. I think she's electrified college basketball, especially for women's college basketball in a way that, and I've seen some great players in women's college basketball, but they didn't make me come watch.
Right.
I've acknowledged them. I was aware how great they were, but when I know she's playing and I can catch a game, I'm watching her play because she's going to do something to make me go, oh my gosh, she's nice. It's got to be Caitlin Clark. She's special.
And she is going to be the reason that the women's NCAA tournament gets ratings this year. Just her.
Yeah.
Her presence in that tournament is going to make people, because she's going to be nationally broadcasted games. You know, they're going to give her the slots to be on the primetime games to watch her. So as far as she can take her team, she is going to get a lot of airtime come March Madness this season for the women's side of things.
And she doesn't play she plays on a good team, but they're not loaded. You know what I mean? Like they're not loaded. Like she's going to be competing against teams that are stacked, that are loaded teams. And trust me when I say she's going to win her share of those battles. She will. She's just very unique, Chris.
Male athlete of the year: Shohei Ohtani, Joker, or Lionel Messi?
Ooh. So I'm not the biggest soccer fan. I just want to be honest. I'm just going to put it out there. But I am aware of everything Messi has done.
I have never watched. I take that back. I've watched one in my entire life. I have watched one entire soccer game, match. I don't know what they call them. I was younger. It was the Women's World Cup. It was the game where Brandy Chastain ripped off her shirt and slid halfway across the field.
Yes, I watched that too.
I watched that. And I was younger. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand the rules of soccer. All I knew was put the ball into the net, and I was all for it. I've never watched an entire soccer match since then. I don't think I ever will, but I know exactly what Messi is doing. For someone who doesn't care about soccer, I know everything he did since coming over to the States without having watched anything, and that's something. I don't know if I would pick him here, but for me, Mo, that's something because I don't care about soccer.
That's
but
the
yet,
point.
I know about him.
I know about him, and I'm not a soccer fan, and that tells you the impact that he's having and how big he is. Now, in this conversation, as much as I love Joker, I would go Ohtani. That's me. I think Ohtani is transcended. I think Ohtani is doing something that's much needed in baseball. I think Ohtani is bringing in casual fans, not just diehard baseball fans, but casual fans are going, let me check this guy. I've heard so much about this guy. He can hit and he can pitch at that level, that way. I think Ohtani's got to be the guy. Joker's great, but I think Ohtani is transcended across the board.
Team of the Year 2023 is our last category. Kansas City Chiefs, Denver Nuggets, Las Vegas Aces.
Ooh. It's tough because the Aces repeated.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's tough. The Nuggets won their first championship in franchise history.
And still look good.
Yes. And then you got what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are doing. That's a tough one, man. I wouldn't choose that. I don't want to be the guy to choose that. Look, I would say this. In terms of the achievement, it's easy. You would go the Aces. They just repeated. That's back to back. But you have to know how hard it is. You do, because you're a fan, to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone get back to one, but to win a Super Bowl back to back. Or at all. So because I'm a big fan of the guy, I'll go Chiefs. I was gonna go Aces, but I'll go Chiefs.
I would probably lean Chiefs here as well. A lot of great NFL teams, singular season NFL teams, never get to a Super Bowl. I mean, just look at and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but just look at the NFL landscape this season. There's so many great individual teams this season that we are putting into the conversation, but only 2 are going to get there. And then we're going to turn the page on this season, and we're never going to talk about that team from this season again because they didn't get there. And that is and I know it's the same in a lot of sports, and I know I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but at the same time, I mean, you look at basketball, and basketball romanticizes a little more than the NFL does about past team success. Major League Baseball certainly romanticizes more about past team success.
Yes.
The NFL doesn't. The NFL you're almost banished for talking about what your team did last season because no one cares. Last season was last season. It's an irrelevant conversation in the NFL. Whereas in the NBA, it's a talking point. In Major League Baseball, it's part of the conversation.
Sure.
In the National Football League, you bring that up because you suck this season. That's the only reason you're talking about it, because you got nothing to talk about today.
Right.
So
it is completely different.
Because of that, I agree with you. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. And although they may not look as great as the Denver Nuggets do this season, and although they may not be in a position to win 3 in a row like the Las Vegas Aces are going to be when their season begins, the Chiefs won their division. So they won a Super Bowl, and they won the division the following year. And who knows, Mo? Because if the Kansas City Chiefs end up in the Super Bowl, we're not going to sit here and say that we are totally shocked. Because what's going to happen is Mahomes is going to put on the cape. And Travis Kelce is going to turn back the age meter a couple of years and look like the old Travis Kelce. And we're going to be sitting here saying they had it in them the whole time. Mahomes was Mahomes. Kelce found his stride. We're not going to be talking about any of those other damn players on that team because they probably weren't a part of it on the offensive side of the football. But that's the conversation. And if that's the conversation, you really can't be that surprised because we know what those two can do.
No, and if they're able to do it, I'm one of those people that believe there's no shortcuts in sports, especially with winning or when people talk about how great you are. But if Patrick Mahomes pulls out a Super Bowl championship this particular season, I don't want Patriots fans to get mad at me, but I'm just saying that I think it elevates him like right up there, right? Mind you, I am a diehard Niners fan, but I call a spade a spade. I think it elevates him past some all-time greats if he can pull something like that off this particular season. That's what I believe.
Mo, there was never really, truly a time in the New England now. Yes, during the New England dynasty, there was always the narrative and the underlying conversation of they just never got Tom good weapons. Tom never, outside of Randy Moss, Tom never really had an elite wide receiver.
Right.
But there was always a but. He never had an elite wide receiver, but he always had good enough guys that would do the dirty work, that would go across the middle, that would fight for the extra yards, that would run clean routes. And sure, there were seasons where they only averaged 20, 21, 22 points a season, 22 points a game. But their defense did their job because they had a good defense. And they gave Tom just enough to get to where they needed to go, right?
Right.
They were never a top 3 offense or anything like that. With the Moss years, they were. But the rest of the years, they gave Tom just enough. That's not the conversation in Kansas City. His receivers can't even catch the ball, Mo.
They can't even line up right.
If you couldn't catch the ball with Tom Brady, you weren't on the damn team anymore. Say what you want about Tom's guys. They could catch the football and run the correct routes. Now, if you tried to put Tom's best receiver on a different team and made them a number 1, it wasn't going to work because Tom filled in the rest. Tom's minimum requirement was, the plays, you run the routes, you catch the ball when I put it on your hands.
Right.
Fine, we got you. Patrick's guys can't even do that.
Right. And that's my point. If him and Kelsey can pull this off, Kelsey and Reed pull this off, it will have to be one of the most unexpected Super Bowl runs in NFL history. And by the way, since we're having this conversation, should that happen, oh my God, Ravens fans.
Oh my God. Don't even.
Oh my God. I'm just saying.
Those 2 MVP trophies are nice, but
they are. They're not better than that Super Bowl MVP. Oh my God, Ravens fans.
Mo, what a way to end the week, sir. I like Fridays. We can go overtime on Fridays. We can just let loose on Fridays.
We can kind of like throw caution to the wind and talk about a little bit of everything and chop it up, and it's fun.
All right, Mo, close us out, sir.
Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you, Chris and I, so much. Thanks for the support. Check out everything that we have at Sports Empire Network. Check out all the great content we have. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back here Monday morning so we can break down everything that happens this week in the NFL. We're going to go through all the games. We're going to talk about who made the playoffs and who didn't make the playoffs. And we're going to start predicting and talking about the first round matchups in the Mo. It seems like a week ago the NFL season started. And here we are finishing the season, about to hit the playoffs. Like it's wild. We're going to break everything down Monday morning right here on Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show on Sports Empire Network, and we will see you Monday morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, get any